So before we start our Torah reading, I'm going to offer some words which might help the Torah reading resonate for you. Today we read some words from the Torah. Gosh, I say this so often. Today we read some words from the Torah that I think are some of the most significant words in the whole Torah. I keep saying this is the most significant, that's the most significant, but actually this really is my number one. This really is my number one. I like it because, Moshe is reaching the end of his life. He knows he's not going to make it to the promised land. And he wants to teach the most important lesson at the end, the thing that people need to really hold on to. And what he says is, I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day, that I've set before you life or death, blessing or curse. Now here it is. Choose life, therefore that your descendants may live. These ancient words, choose life, have such great meaning. I call the Torah class I teach each week exploring your life through Torah, because the Torah's words, which are thousands of years old, are still so meaningful in today's world. It's just amazing to me. And these words, choose life, are just the core of what I think it really takes to live life well. Now, the first thing you think about choose life, especially the first thing I thought about as a physician, is, all my patients who put up with incredibly painful and difficult treatments just to live a little longer. They chose life when to choose to live longer was extremely difficult. And there were other patients who chose in a different way. They chose to lead their lives by not taking any more treatments and just spend whatever time they had with their family and friends, devoid of all the burdens of medical care and medical treatment. But the two things these people had in common, these groups of people had in common, was they chose, they thought about what really mattered, and they made a decision. Yom Kippur is a time of really reflecting on our lives, where we make choices about who we are and what we're to do. That's what all of these confessional prayers and repentance prayers are really about. They're about deciding what is important to us. But I think Moses is telling us another thing that's really significant. Not only must we choose the life we deserve, but we must choose life that gives to others. It's not just enough to choose life for ourselves. We have to choose life for our world. Now, it's always good to tell something, a little story, and I'm going to tell you about two stories about different ways people choose life and choose life to make life meaningful for others. One of those people is very well known to you, my beloved cantor Andy, my beloved colleague, because he chooses life in ways to make his life really meaningful to others. Now, you might think that the way he does this is by being a cantor who knows how to break your heart open and draw you in so you'll join him in song. But that's just one way he chooses life. The other way is even more amazing to me. I've been trying to meet with this guy to get this prayer service organized. And I call him up and I say, Andy, let's meet on Sunday. And you know what he tells me? Can't do it, Rabbi. I'm going to give platelets to people who need it. That's how he spends his Sunday morning. He doesn't spend it watching football games. He's giving platelets to people who need it. He's a holy man who chooses to live life in a holy way. But let me tell you about someone else, someone who's really dear to Bhavani and I's heart. It's a woman who chose life in a very, very special way. She was a woman who was a Holocaust survivor. She and her mother were taken, and her mother was a seamstress. So instead of being sent to concentration camps, they were sent to a labor camp where her mother sewed Nazi uniforms. There was a time in her life where all this trauma of what she experienced as a child, because she was 8 years old when she was taken, it just paralyzed her. She couldn't do anything. She just turned into a little shell of herself. And luckily, she met a very wise counselor who said, "Trudy, who are you?" And she said, "My mother taught me to be a seamstress." So he said, "Sew your way out of this." So Trudy started to embroider, and she embroidered. If you go to and see her works, you'll just be amazed by it. She embroidered beautiful, beautiful embroideries of Jewish subjects and of her experience of the Holocaust. She truly chose how to grab her life when it had been contracted and taken away. I want to share a parable by Rabbi Ed Feinstein, one of our local rabbis, who's just wonderful. It's said that when a soul goes up to the gates of heaven, the angels say, "What did you do in the world?" If the person answers with their profession, the angels are not impressed. The angels are not interested in only hearing about a person's job. But if the soul answers saying something about their life, like, "I loved, I found mission in my life, I smiled every day, I took care of others, I was happy, I tried in my smallest way to make a difference," the angels bless the soul on its journey. Yom Kippur is a holiday where we're called to be not locked into our beliefs about ourselves and what we have to offer the world. But I want to add one other thing I actually thought of this morning, because I heard about this tangent a rabbi took at a local synagogue. Rabbi Goldstein took at a local synagogue. It was a tangent he took on Rosh Hashanah. He said, the Jewish world's really going through something, and I think we need to do some thinking about what's becoming of the Jewish world. And when I thought about what he had said, I also thought about what my teacher, Reb Zalman, who was the founder of the Jewish Renewal Movement, said. He said, in the Jewish world, there's a paradigm shift. And it was like what does he mean, paradigm shift? And he meant that things were changing. And he perceived this way back when, sort of like the climate scientists who said there was a climate crisis. Nobody understood a word they said. But Zalman said, there's a paradigm shift. And he's right. Judaism is changing. We had this great, great crisis called the destruction of the temple. That was a big paradigm shift in Judaism, because we could no longer do Judaism the way we used to do it. We did it with a temple. We did it with sacrifices and priests. The temple was destroyed, and Judaism had to be recreated. There was this amazing paradigm shift. And the Jewish rabbis grabbed hold of the idea, and they came with this idea that prayer would replace sacrifice. And that's what we did. And we've done that for centuries since that paradigm shift was necessary. But we've had another catastrophe in the Jewish world. And you know what it was? The COVID epidemic. It changed everything. We didn't have services online. Now we do. The Jewish world was contracting before the COVID epidemic. The rate of intermarriage was increasing. The rate of synagogue membership and involvement in the synagogue was changing. It was decreasing. And then COVID came. And it brought the climate crisis, the Jewish crisis, to an even greater extent. So that even the biggest synagogues, the really large ones in Los Angeles, are contracting. Because with COVID, people didn't go to synagogue for 2 years. And people forgot what they could experience in synagogue, and they still haven't remembered or recreated it. And I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't know what the future is, what the paradigm shift, how it will land. Maybe it will land with something similar to what we have here in Beth, a small boutique synagogue where everybody knows each other, where everybody comes together in a small group and everybody shares in a small group. Maybe that's the paradigm. It's a beautiful paradigm. I love being here, and I hope you've loved being here with me. But something is changing. So in addition to choosing life this year, I want you to think about what choices you are contributing to in Jewish life and what choosing Jewish life is going to look like in the future, because we are the pioneers. Things have changed, and we can decide how we want to make Jewish life in the future. So choose life. Choose life for yourself. Choose life for the world at large by doing wonderful things like donating platelets. Choose life by finding who you are and grab that life and take hold of it the way Trudy did. But choose life. And when the shofar sounds, that great shofar sounds at Nila, it's going to sound and it's going to be a message to you. And it's going to whisper in your ear. It's going to whisper, choose life. And I want you to take that moment and choose life. Decide what next year is going to be like for you. And my hope is that you all are sealed in a book of wonderful joy, wisdom, and love for the coming year.